What's going on, everyone? So we know that the Lakers are actively trying to find some sort of deal to bolster the roster and make them a better team and potentially make them a contender. But any trade that they do is likely going to have to help them not only this year, but for several years going forward, right? Because if you do any trade, it's likely going to ruin your cap space. And so you're not going to have the flexibility to go and get other pieces, other players. And right now, there are tons of rumor mills going around because it's the Lakers. They're buyers and, they're trying to get something done. And one of the things that I saw recently is this. The Lakers are negotiating with the Raptors and their goal is Fred VanVleet. Now, the Lakers and the Raptors have had negotiations on several occasions, right? Throughout the last couple years, THT was a huge target for Toronto for some time. And now the Lakers don't have the Raptors, but the deal would look something like this. Toronto Raptors receive Russell Westbrook, 2027 first round pick, 2029 first round pick. Lakers would receive Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., and Otto Porter Jr. So basically the Lakers would receive a point guard, a shooting guard, and a small forward for Russell Westbrook and those two firsts, which I would imagine would be unprotected. And from Toronto's standpoint, look, Toronto is underachieving, underperforming. They're 4 games under 500. They're in the 10th seed right now, so they are in the play-in, but that's not where they want to be, right? They want to be a team that's contending night in and night out and is a legit contender. And both of these guys are likely the odd men out, right? Both guys can be free agents this upcoming season. Gary Trent Jr. has now been a bench role player for them, isn't getting the starts and the looks that he once was with the Raptors, so he's probably gone, and then he becomes a free agent, and he could definitely be a target for the Lakers. And Fred VanVleet, they've kind of been 50-50 on him, which he has his moments of brilliance, and then other times he just kind of is inconsistent at times. And the Toronto Raptors could be a team that would be looking in another direction. And if you're going to give up both of these guys and you're going to let these two go, you might as well get some assets for them, right? Like, how many teams are lining up to the door to go get Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. when both guys are probably going to want to be paid pretty significant? And if you're Toronto, you can't get locked into these two guys, right? You got to pay OG. You're not a very good team right now, so you're going to have to do some retooling. You're going to have to make some changes, but you do have like several big wins. Otto Porter Jr. really hasn't played much for you this year, so I don't think it's going to be a huge factor if they lose him. So this trade actually does make some sense for Toronto. Now, what's the likelihood? I don't know. Could the Lakers get this deal done? Sure. Does this deal make sense for the Lakers though? Right? I mean, you are getting a point guard, you are getting a shooting guard, and you are getting a small forward, which the Lakers desperately need, right? Otto Porter Jr. would be a perfect type of player that we need, that 3-and-D style guy. Gary Trent is somebody that I'm personally high on. I mean, he's 6'5" shooting guard. So he's, your standard, 6'5", 6'6" shooting guard. But he's a guy that is still very young, right? He's like 23 years old. So plenty of room to grow, to get better. Could be a piece for now and the future. Last year, he was like top 3 in 30-point games scored. He had more like 30-point games than like half the stars in this league, which was pretty impressive. And he's still averaging 17 points a game this season, which would be huge for the Lakers. They get that shooter that the Lakers desperately need, right? They get a guy that can, light it up, get hot, and not just shoot the ball, but could also score, right? He's a guy that could put the ball on the deck and go get a bucket if you need him to. And then Fred VanVleet, he's a 6'1" guard, and many people might be looking at this as like, oh, but you're getting more guards. You are getting a win in this deal. You're moving off of Russ, so you're going to need those type of guys. You'd still have Dennis Schroeder, right? And I would imagine you're going to make some move for Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn. But sticking with Fred VanVleet, he's, again, a guy who this season is averaging 19 points a game, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists. So he's a guy that can come in, give you some playmaking, give you some shooting. He might actually be really good next to LeBron James because he can catch and shoot. And we've seen those type of point guards work really well next to the Lakers, or next to LeBron, I should say. And so I don't think that this would be the worst move ever. And I mean, he's a guy that is, he's 37% 3-point shooting for his career. So if he can kind of regain that, because this season he's shooting about 33%, but every year outside of this year, he shot about 37 or better, right? He shot 37, just under 38%, 37%, 39%, 37%, and then 41%, and then 38%. So this is a guy that has pretty much every year except for this year has shot somewhere in the 37 to 39 range, which again, the Lakers could really use a guy like that. And then again, Gary Trent, he's a guy that can do multiple things, put the ball on the court, on the hardwood, and go get you a bucket. Again, another 38% three-point shooter. So these two guys would come in and really help with the three-point shooting on top of Otto Porter Jr. Otto Porter, he's 36%. So you'd get three guys that could shoot the ball, three guys that can make plays, three guys that could really help this Lakers team. And they, again, might be the odd man out for the Toronto Raptors. Like, they're two players that the Raptors are very likely going to lose this offseason, that teams aren't going to line up to make a trade for. And so they could look at it as like, hey, if we're going to lose these two guys, we might as well go get those two unprotected first. And if you're the Lakers, you're probably looking at it. But then you got to move Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn. So at that point, you're kind of all in, right? Like, if you're going to get Fred VanVleet, you're going to go get Gary Trent Jr., and you're going to get Otto Porter Jr., that's all of your cap space, right? Because you're going to have to re-sign all those guys. You're going to have to keep those guys around for the long haul. You got those three. I mean, all three of those guys could start next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis if you wanted to. Or you could have Gary Trent continue to come off the bench and have Walker start as your two guard. And then now you have Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder would be the one coming off the bench and being your backup point guard. You could go that route. And then unload these two and go get, maybe go get Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier at that point, right? Because if you're the Lakers, like, one, Cam Reddish would be nice. Now you have Cam Reddish who could play both forward spots, backing up Otto Porter Jr. There you go. And you got Gary Trent and you got Cam Reddish as well as Max Christie for your future. Not to mention Austin Reeves, if they keep Austin Reeves, or maybe they can keep Walker. If Walker will sign the $7.7 million non-bird rights, right? So now you would even have like a young core going forward in every position, except for the center position. But still, you could go and go get a center if you needed to. And you have Anthony Davis likely for the long haul, unless they make some move on him eventually. But regardless, it just gives you a nice little solid foundation. And at that point, all the Knicks want to do is unload Fournier and Reddish, right? So yes, you gave up both first round picks to go get Gary Trent, VanVleet, and Otto Porter Jr., but you could go get these guys for nothing, right? Like, because you're taking on Evan Fournier's salary, but at that point, it makes sense. So now you're getting another career, 36 to 38% three-point shooter that you hope can kind of regain his three-point shooting. Again, a guy that you could have start, a guy you could come off the bench. Again, you could have a starting five of Fred VanVleet, let's say Walker, right? Otto Porter Jr., LeBron James, Anthony Davis. That's a really good, well-rounded, balanced starting five. Like, I really like that starting five. And then you'd still have Dennis Schroeder. You'd still have Gary Trent Jr., Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, Wenyen Gabriel, Thomas Bryant, Max Christie, Austin Reeves. Like, now you're a legit deep team. You got shooting, you got scoring, you got guys that could put the ball on the floor and go get a bucket. You got size, you got a little bit of everything, and I don't think that this would be a bad move. Now, you do have the 6'1" guard, but that's fine because there's nothing wrong with having one of them. It's when you have like 4 or 5 of them that it becomes a problem, right? You have basically every position locked up. You have your point guard position locked up with, LeBron could play point if you needed him to, but he doesn't really want to play point. But still, you got Fred VanVleet and you got Dennis Schroeder. Both guys with experience, both guys veterans, both guys can knock down the three ball, both guys can make a play, both guys can get to the basket. It's nice. I think that'd be a nice setup. Your shooting guard is great. You got Walker, right? You'd have Gary Trent Jr., you'd have Evan Fournier. Perfect. You'd have Austin Reeves. So you got that depth. Same thing with your small forward position. You got Cam Reddish. You got, Otto Porter Jr. You could have Reeves or Walker or Fournier or any of those guys play the 3 spot if you needed them to. The 4 spot, you got that locked up with LeBron, Wenyen Gabriel. Thomas Bryant could play the 4 because he's been able to show and prove that he could stretch the 4 a little bit and knock down some threes. Cam Reddish could play the 4 with his size and his length. There you go. Now you got that. And then your center position, Anthony Davis, you could go small ball if you wanted to with Wayne and Gabriel. You could go with Thomas Bryant, and then you still have Damian Jones, right? No matter how you shake it, you're in a good spot. And this could also be a move that helps the Lakers while Anthony Davis is out, right? Obviously, you'd still want a center, you'd still want a big man, but you go get that sizable wing that you really need. You go get some shooting and you go get some scoring. So now you put some guys around LeBron James that can go get you 15 to 20 a night. Gary Trent is very capable of getting you 15 to 20 a night, and so is Fred VanVleet, 15 to 20 a night. I mean, again, both guys one's averaging just under 20 and the other one's averaging 17. So it's not like that's that far-fetched. Otto Porter Jr., he's a guy that can knock down threes. He was big for Golden State on their championship run, right? Hit some clutch shots, made some big plays, all of those things. So that he's a guy that has that experience that you can count on, that you can rely on. He's got a little bit of an injury bug right now, but he's supposed to be returning from that shortly. And then you go get Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier, and maybe you're off to the races. Hopefully Evan Fournier can kind of recapture that, that magic, that Orlando Magic. Evan Fournier, if he can get back to that, now you have like a legit starting level shooting guard, right? A guy that could go get you 15 a night, knock down, 40% of his threes, and play some decent defense, But that's the thing. Gary Trent Jr. is actually a solid defender, and so is Otto Porter Jr., and so is Fred VanVleet. I mean, neither of them are elite lockdown superstar defenders, but they're all really good defenders that can run within a scheme. You'd still have Anthony Davis when he comes back. You'd have LeBron James. You just have guys that have switchability, that have length, have size, that have youth. Like all of these guys you could keep around for the next several years, right? Like you could have all three of these guys could be on the Lakers the next 5 to 7 years. And they'd still, most of them would still be in the prime. I mean, VanVleet would be what? He'd be 34, I think, something like that. Gary Trent would be 30, so you could just keep him around if you wanted to in 7 years, and then Porter would be, on his way out, most likely. But even then, he'd be like 35, 36, something like that. Like, there you go. You got youth, you got your shooting, you basically solve all your problems. And if you're Toronto, you're looking at it as like, look, we're not a contender. We're not winning anything this year. We're probably losing at least one of them, because you're not going to re-sign both Gary Trent and VanVleet, and now you're stuck for the next, several. Like, this is your team for the next 5 years. Like, you're not going to do that, and you still got to pay OG. Like, no, they're very likely going to let both of these guys go, if not at least one of them. And Gary Trent, how long is Gary Trent going to want to come off the bench when he's proven that he could be a starter in this league? So it makes sense if you're Toronto to get something, get some assets, right? Go get the Lakers' first-round picks. And we've seen Ujiri, he's willing to make the questionable play, or do something that like everyone's like, wait, why did you just do that? And it has a positive, it has a benefit. So like, this doesn't seem that far-fetched to me. It seems like a move that very well could get done. And I do think it makes sense for the Lakers, because now you basically have your 5 core guys going for. You got your point guard, you got your shooting guard, you got your small forward, you got your power forward, and you got your center for at least the next 2-3 years, right? If you keep Walker, you keep Walker. If you keep, if you keep Austin Reeves, you keep Austin Reeves. Great, that's just more core guys. But you could, again, start all 3 of these guys next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and you're one of the better starting 5s in the league. You got shooting, you got depth, you got size, you got switchability, you got everything. You got hustle, you got multiple guys that can put the ball on the floor and make a play. That's huge. That's what you need. You got your spot up shooting, all of that stuff. If you're the Lakers, I think you got to look at this deal. This might actually be one of the better deals that the Lakers could get as far as youth, production, scoring, shooting, a little bit of everything. I think this is a solid move. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Do you like this deal? Do you not like this deal? Is this a deal that you would make? Is this a deal you wouldn't? However you feel about it, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear them. So let me know down in the comment section below.